Christopher Gist, a figure whose life traversed the frontiers of early America. He played a pivotal role in shaping the history of the region that would become Kentucky. The Gist family had connections that extended to the Revolutionary War. This is the story of Christopher Gist, one of the early explorers to enter the land of Kentucky. Already, please subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video. Christopher Gist was born in 1706 in Baltimore, Maryland. He was an early Kentucky frontiersman with limited formal education. It is believed that he received training as a surveyor, likely from his father, Richard Gist, who played a role in plotting out the city of Baltimore. Gist's family background in surveying laid the foundation for his later explorations and surveying activities. It's interesting to note that Christopher Gist's nephew, Mordecai Gist, served as a general commanded by George Washington during the Revolutionary War. This connection to a prominent figure in the Revolutionary War adds another layer to Christopher Gist's family history. Christopher Gist's family is quite fascinating. He married Sarah Howard, the daughter of Joshua Howard of Manchester. Joshua Howard had served as an officer in King James II of England's forces during the Monmouth Rebellion in 1685, before settling in Baltimore, Maryland. Christopher and Sarah had 5 children. Richard, who unfortunately met his fate at the Battle of Kings Mountain. A notable Kentuckian, the first governor, Isaac Shelby, was also at that battle and made a name for himself. Nathaniel, he went on to command Gist's additional Continental Regiment of the Continental Army. Thomas was the third son, and they had 2 daughters, Anne and Violet. It's interesting to know that Christopher Gist's brother, Nathaniel Gist, married Sarah's sister, Mary Howard. Nathaniel and Mary, along with George Washington and 2 other veteran soldiers, were involved in a prospective land deal during the mid-1750s. There's also a mention of Nathaniel Gist possibly being the father of Sequoyah, the creator of the Cherokee syllabary, adding another intriguing layer to the Gist family history. Christopher Gist's time as a frontiersman was marked by exploration and interactions with Native Americans in the Ohio Valley. By 1750, he had settled in northern North Carolina, near the Yadkin River, and became neighbors with a famous frontiersman, Daniel Boone. In the same year, the Ohio Company hired Gist to explore the Ohio River country, reaching as far as the Falls of the Ohio, which is where Louisville would be founded, and to establish positive relations with the Native Americans along the way. During his expedition, Gist reached Muskingum on Christmas Day of 1750, where he participated in a religious ceremony with readings from the Church of England. This event is considered the first Protestant religious service in the present-day Ohio. Gist spent the winter mapping the Ohio countryside between the Lenape, Delaware villages, Shinopians Town, which is present-day Pittsburgh, and the Great Miami River in western Ohio. After mapping out the area, Gist headed south back to the Yadkin Valley. But how did he get there? The Warrior's Path. Long before the arrival of white hunters and explorers in Kentucky, through the Cumberland Gap, native people had established an extensive north-south route, known as the Warrior's Path. This ancient trail served as a crucial pathway, connecting the Shawnee and the northern tribes residing above the Ohio River with the Cherokees and their allies in the southern Appalachian Mountains. Native communities primarily utilized game trails formed by migrating herds of elk and buffalo, following natural avenues of least resistance through the rugged Appalachian Mountains. The Warrior's Path, referred to as Atamaui, meaning Path of the Armed Ones, traversed Kentucky from the Cherokee settlements southeast of the Cumberland Gap, crossed the Cumberland River at Cumberland Ford, present-day Pineville, and meandered through the Cumberland River Valley to the Kentucky River. Continuing northward, the path crossed Powell and Clark counties, reaching the Ohio River at Cabin Meek in Mason County, where Shawnees and Mingos used it to travel south into Kentucky. Branches of the Warrior's Path extended to tribal areas in Pennsylvania and New York to the north, as well as routes through the Tennessee River Valley to Alabama and the Gulf of Mexico to the south. So, in January 1751, Gist and his party took the Warrior's Path. While on the path, they visited a trading post in Kentucky that was operated by native and French people. This puts him in the category of first explorers of Kentucky of European descent. Upon returning to North Carolina, Gist discovered that his family had fled to Roanoke, Virginia, due to native attacks. He rejoined them and later, in the summer of 1751, went west again to explore the Pennsylvania and western Virginia, present-day West Virginia, regions south of the Ohio River. In 1753, Gist accompanied George Washington on an expedition to the Ohio country. Washington, sent by Virginia Governor Robert Dinwiddie to deliver a message to the French demanding their withdrawal from the Ohio country, had Gist as his guide. During the journey, Gist played a pivotal role in history by saving George Washington's life twice. First, from a hostile Native American assault, and second, by pulling Washington from the freezing Allegheny River after he fell off a makeshift raft. This period of Gist's life showcases his significant contribution to the exploration and diplomatic efforts in the Ohio country during a crucial time in colonial history. Christopher Gist played a crucial role during the French and Indian War, which was part of the broader 7 Years' War between France and Britain. In 1754, Gist, along with George Washington and a detachment of Virginia Regiment, attempted to drive the French out of the region. This effort culminated in the Battle of Fort Necessity on July 3, 1754, where the French army routed the Virginia militia. This battle marked the beginning of the French and Indian War. Gist was not only involved in military actions, but also had personal stakes in this region. He owned land near the present city of Uniontown, Pennsylvania, which he named Gist Plantation. Gist started building a town there, but at the onset of the war, the French burned down the buildings, including those on Gist Plantation. During 1755, Christopher Gist was a member of the ill-fated Braddock expedition, which aimed to capture the French fort Duquesne, present-day Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, the expedition ended in defeat for the British and their Native American allies at the hands of the French and their Native American allies. Gist's involvement in these military endeavors reflects the complex and challenging nature of the conflict in the Ohio country during the French and Indian War. Christopher Gist's life came to an end during the summer of 1759, when he contracted smallpox. He passed away either in South Carolina or Georgia. His death marked the conclusion of a life filled with exploration, surveying, and serving during significant events like the French and Indian War, and his actions during history could have very well changed the course of the United States history with his interactions with George Washington. It's worth noting that there are conflicting reports about Christopher Gist's death. Some sources suggest that he died in 1759 due to smallpox. However, other reports create confusion, indicating that he may have survived until 1794 and died in Cumberland, North Carolina. This conflicting narrative might be attributed to confusion with a nephew also named Christopher Gist, who was one of Richard Gist's grandsons through Nathaniel Gist and Mary Howard. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the exact details of his death, Christopher Gist's contributions as a frontiersman, explorer, and participant in military expeditions have left a lasting mark on the history of the Ohio country and the broader colonial era. Christopher Gist, the early Kentucky frontiersman, stands as a testament to the resilience, curiosity, and adventurous spirit that defined those who ventured into the unknown, leaving an undeniable mark on the shaping of a new nation and a new state. So there you have it, the story of Christopher Gist. There's more to every story, but that wraps up our video for now. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to try out audibletrial.com/kyhistorypod to get a free book of your choosing. If you'd like to support the channel, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/kyhistorypod. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification button for more Kentucky history content. Find us on these social media platforms and check out the Kentucky History Podcast on these podcast platforms for more in-depth history of Kentucky. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.